Well, a former New Mexico police officer is facing more than a decade in federal prison. Prosecutors say he used his badge to prey on at least one teen girl, and we learned he's actually been in trouble before.
For investigator Brittany Costello discovered similar allegations years apart, spanning 3 police agencies. So tonight, we're asking what's being done to track troubled officers.
It was a big deal at the time, a certified police officer bringing his years of experience to a small town force.
I have to say it and have to eat it. We allowed this to happen because we hired him.
So you feel some responsibility for this?
I do, yes.
Deming Police Captain Jose Montoya says he now knows the real reason Jesus Lopez Jr. walked into his station looking for work. Hindsight that came only after state police arrested Lopez under his and Chief Sergio Lara's watch.
He infiltrated our department just to be a predator.
Prosecutors say Lopez used his badge to lure a local 16-year-old girl into a sexual relationship that turned violent. The victim said Lopez would force her to drink alcohol, force her to have sex while recording it on his phone. He allegedly hit her, then threatened her, pointing his department-issued rifle at her.
Did you hear about what was alleged to have happened?
We had heard, yes ma'am.
And what was your reaction to that?
Surprised. Actually, I'm always disappointed and shocked when an officer misconduct happens and then charges are brought up.
Hector Carrillo is police chief of Bayard, a smaller town an hour north of Deming. It's where Lopez started his career as an officer in 2020. Lopez was Bayard's only police officer when Carrillo took office.
How far into your time at the department did you start having some issues?
I think I want to say even a month into it, I started getting phone calls.
It's all detailed in this officer misconduct case, what's known as an LEA 90. Carrillo sent it to our state's law enforcement certification board 2 years ago. It's the only avenue to revoke or suspend a New Mexico officer's law enforcement certification. In the report, Carrillo says Lopez was messaging high school girls, interfering in criminal cases by contacting women shortly after their arrests, and blatantly disobeying orders. The chief fired Lopez.
But you learned shortly after the termination here that he was an emergency hire elsewhere.
I had been informed that he was going to be hired with Lordsburg Police Department, yes ma'am.
Lordsburg told us it was an emergency hire for a department so short-staffed, it was dangerous. The city picked up Lopez less than a month after Bayard fired him, without ever, Carrillo says, calling him.
I made that courtesy call to Chief
yeah.
Salazar. He was the acting chief at the time. Gave him just a heads up. I said, hey, look, this is what happened here. I'm following an LA 90. And his response to me was, well, I know him.
Salazar disputes that, but what's not in dispute is that months later, Lordsburg fired Lopez after another incident.
But obviously he ends up at the Deming Police Department. Did they make contact with you?
No, ma'am.
Captain Montoya says Deming only knew what Jesus Lopez told them.
He assured me that the chief of Bayard at the time was just out to get him, and it was all false.
And background investigators never found his disciplinary LEA 90 case waiting for review at our state's law enforcement academy.
Do you guys make it a habit to call them just to say, hey, does this person have an LEA 90?
We never have. We've been and since my tenure as captain, I've never had that become an issue.
If you guys would have known that had been filed, would that have impacted him being hired?
Absolutely.
Definitely.
Yeah.
The New Mexico Department of Public Safety has made it near impossible for the public to get information on officers accused of serious misconduct. It recently changed its policy. These misconduct reports are no longer available for public review. Instead, it sends people to this website. It's a new misconduct database. Users can search for a police officer's case. But here's the thing. It doesn't list an officer whose misconduct case is pending. Only after an investigation and board approval would someone get basic information like whether the case was dismissed or if disciplinary action was taken on an officer's certification. In Lopez's case, it took our state's law enforcement certification board 2 years to review and act. In fact, only after his Deming arrest in 2024 did our state finally get to those 2022 allegations from Bayard. The board revoked his license. Too late, if you ask Bayard Chief Carrillo.
And when we look at 2 years from start to finish, what do you think about that?
We need to fix it.
Federal prosecutors took over the case against former police officer Lopez.
We consider production one of the more serious offenses.
He now faces a charge of producing child pornography.
Because once you produce something, and especially if you share it online, it exists forever, right? And so really that is an ongoing offense that hurts a child for life.
If convicted, Lopez will spend a mandatory minimum of 15 years in prison.
I just wish that it would have been, Santa Fe would have been a little bit faster on the ball with that.
Folks who serve in a position of authority, are given a special trust by all of us in the community.
Brittany Costello, 4 Investigates.
The State Department of Public Safety refused to sit down for an interview with us. They did send a statement related to the policy change Brittany outlined. You're going to find that at KOB.com.